Superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report, Curriculum Advisory Council, no update. Facilities Advisory Council, Kristen had the bid opening today for the mechanical unit that will be going on top of the auxiliary gymnastics room. It's the small room next to our gymnastics room. It required a small standalone HVAC unit. So that bid opening was this afternoon, and she'll discuss that later in the agenda. In regards to an IGA with Riverside, the board has discussed in closed session on a few times under school safety, trying to generate an intergovernmental agreement with local municipalities to address a concern with the police radios in our building. I received a intergovernmental agreement from Riverside, and our attorney is working with their attorney on some of the particular details. The board's current share of cost right now is $25,000, which is approximately 38% of the project, 39% of the project. President Smithing negotiated those terms President Sells from Riverside negotiated the terms with President Smithing, Hugh Hermanack from North Riverside, and Kit Ketchmark from Brookfield. So those are the terms that were laid out in the IGA. I'll let Wes address if he wants to add anything to that, but I do not have a finalized IGA to put on the agenda for formal review or action at this time.
Right, so it appears it didn't go well at the Brookfield Town Village meeting last night, and they are not in favor of the intergovernmental agreement. So it appears to me that Ben has more work to do. So it's his deal.
So can we?
We'll see
So what's your sense of general time frame then?
Well, it's tough to say. We're hoping by summer.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my general. It's a Ben question, and this just happened last night.
Were they not in favor
I haven't
of
talked to Ben today.
Were they not in
reached out
favor of
to
the
him.
agreement or of the amount?
The amount of money. It was a money thing. It was a money thing.
Okay.
So
How far apart would you say might be?
it's tough to say because I wasn't there. I wish I was there, but I got tied up, and it appears that it's a considerable amount.
My personal opinion, I think it's been going on too long, and it's just get a bit nervous thinking, if we kick this, and I understand their point of trying to be responsible with money, but I think the potential safety or downside is a big liability. My personal opinion, and I haven't spoken to anybody about this, is we ought to consider just making it happen.
So we would be paying $25,000. How much did we ask Brookfield?
14.
14.
Yeah, I think the
And
terms of the
North Riverside,
agreement.
14, and Riverside were 14. I think
Yeah.
that was the
And North
split.
Riverside is a yes?
North
Brookfield's
Riverside
no?
already has said yes.
And Brookfield's not happy with the amount? Okay.
Right. So Chief Weitzel
Just unclear.
presented this at the Brookfield Town yesterday.
I see.
They're his radios. So
Okay.
having said that, I suspect Ben will come back and we'll talk about what we need to do and how we can do that. We are coming into budget season, so we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, we got to find out why Brookfield is reticent to do that. I mean, do they have good reason? Do they not like the technology? Do they not like the equipment?
I
Do they
think their assumption and their feeling is that we should pay for it, the school board should pay for it.
All of it?
That's what I got from the
I don't think they want to pay anything.
conversations. But I was not at the.
Yeah, they don't want to pay anything.
Right. That's an unknown, so, like I said, we'll just go back back to one. I mean, it's not done, it's not out of the woods, it's not gonna happen. Maybe we value engineer the project, maybe we move it to a different look, a different feel, maybe we, there's a lot of variables to do besides the big, we have to get it done yesterday. The school's been here 100 years.
But there is agreement, or is there agreement from public safety in Brookfield that it needs to get done? Or,
I don't know why they're pushing so hard.
okay, I mean, that I think would be my follow-up question as to what their objection is.
Right.
Is it about,
Well, you had a call into the mayor, correct?
I did have a call into, you know, I tried to reach out to Ben, I didn't get a hold of him today. I missed Kit, him and I text back and forth, and I just missed it, I was just working today, so.
Yeah, I think might be a misconception that we're sitting on all this cash that we're not using. And, but as was presented, you know, by Kristen, you know, I think the last meeting or the meeting before, you know, that goes in cycles. So we're not this cash cow, but, you know, it just seems like it's been going on for quite a bit. And before I got on the board, Deanna and Tom got on the board, and this isn't any critique or criticism of anybody prior. This is just the nature of negotiations.
No, I get it. And we had.
Chasing the same dollars with, you know, state or, you know, different revenue, and it's.
agreed. I mean, we have a dollar amount at this point, there's a plan.
Yeah.
And if the public safety professionals could agree that the plan needs to be executed, I mean, I absolutely agree we need to move forward.
Yet we have to find out why Brookfield, which is a major player, is not on board with this plan. That seems odd. So if it's a public
I
safety
think we
plan.
moved pretty, I mean, as a board, we moved pretty quickly, you know. Ben came and said, look, this is a thing, we're talking about this. I was like, well, we didn't, this isn't in our budget, you know. Our budget season starts. And he was like, we really want to get this done now. And I said, well, let's talk about how to do that. And I think we came up with an agreement. I thought there was an intercompany agreement. Intergovernment agreement. So, sorry, I just said.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
That's my private life coming out. You know, and I don't know if that was negotiated outside of the trustees, or they weren't informed, or, you know, these are questions I cannot answer. But obviously it was not the deal that they wanted, so.
Just to clarify, though, we did not set up the terms.
No, this was
This isn't something where you said, hey, you guys each pay 14 and we'll pay 25.
It's not my.
Right,
I'm a
Mr.
participant.
Sells is
The chief architect.
chief
of this
architect.
deal.
And it is a negotiation, and it is an intergovernmental agreement, and those things typically don't happen overnight. I think we're still, you know, this newest this newest piece came to light just last night, right? So there still are more conversations that need to be had.
Right. I mean, it's not going to happen. It's just, what does it look like, and what does the money shake out, and how does that play into the future of the school? You know, is it a 1 year, 2 year? I mean, it's, you know, there's two different floors on the deal, so.
I had talked briefly with Chief Weitzel, and his take was, you know, he shared with them that there was an intergovernmental agreement. Some of the trustees did not appear to know that there was an intergovernmental, that it had gotten as far as the intergovernmental agreement. He shared with them that, you know, the dollar amounts. I think their biggest concern was setting a precedent that if any other schools in their community had this issue, that they would be responsible to have to pay some portion for all those schools.
And
The word
Why do we have this issue in the first place?
What do you?
Well, why do they not work? Why do we have to get new ones?
Because we have a 100-year-old building.
because.
I mean, our building's been here for a very long time. In 2014, the police department shifted from a wide band radio frequency to a narrow band radio frequency when they combined it for the WC3. And there were some issues with the band frequency. First, Riverside changed over to that frequency, and eventually everybody was shifting over to that frequency. And that shift over to that frequency caused some issues in primarily the basement. And so just the same concern that the board had was, hey, if every time they change the frequency, are we going to be on the hook to buy new repeaters? You know, so I think Everybody is obviously probably showing some caution. But I
Well, my
think,
point just being that we did not take any action that caused these not to work. It was a change in frequency band, whatever it is,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So shouldn't we be hesitant to set a precedent that we're going to pay more than 40% when it wasn't our actions that, you see what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
it's just the opposite side of it.
Right.
I mean, we're already paying.
Well, and I think-
That's why it's a negotiation.
Well,
Right, that's
right,
right.
that's
the
why,
answer.
right.
Exactly.
And not to defend Brookfield at all, but they have 2 high schools and 4 grade schools, right? So,
Well, yeah, I mean,
If
North
you use-
Riverside's sending like 42 kids, and they're going to pay the same amount.
I wouldn't say, a little
Well,
more than
yeah,
40.
that's an exaggeration. I don't know how many North Riverside sends.
no, but.
But it's less than
Absolutely.
Brookfield.
No,
The
right.
percentage of students
Sure,
coming from North Riverside is far lower.
right.
Well, I think the point is we thought we had
Yes.
an agreement.
We thought it was
We
done.
don't have an agreement. At some point, we'll circle back with the gentleman and we'll figure out what that looks like and we'll come back and talk about it at a board meeting because it's not.
To your point, it's not going to go away.
Well, and the fact that
student safety.
it's a known weak link,
Right.
potentially,
A known risk.
known risk.
Right, I think time is of the essence.
And
Absolutely.
I think it's, you got to try to keep on budget, but possibly make an exception for something like this. And I don't know if this is the proper, we could talk further in closed session, but I think it's been going on too long, and
I think there's some room for discussion. I did speak briefly with the village manager from Riverside and said, hey, we're pretty close to getting this done. I wouldn't let this ruin the progress we've made. She said she doesn't have negotiation ability, so she was, going to defer that to President Sells, and he was going to reach out to Wes, so. I mean, I'll do whatever the board's pleasure is.
you know what? You have an agreement with Riverside if they change frequencies sometime in the next couple of years, that they agree to, a higher percentage, of our take. I don't know if that's a compromise.
But you put
for
language
both
in there
sides.
that any future change needs to be by mutual agreement.
Yeah, we were looking
I think
at some of this
honestly,
language,
that's
like
all I was
currently.
I mean, like, the terms of the IGA were pretty solid. I think there was 1 or 2 sections that, when I received it from the village, they actually, after we sent our comments back, they were just going to connect our district attorney with the village attorney, and it was more or less on that. Future maintenance, and in the event
Yeah.
frequencies changed in the future, we would renegotiate the percentages or something like that. But it wasn't, I mean, other than that, we were fine with the 25,000 and
Yeah,
getting it
and
done.
we had said their language we put in there about upkeep and so forth, that we would maintain that. There was some directive by them and that we would pay. We're like, well, okay, we're gonna pay, we'll just do it. So that was some of the language, but it wasn't about the money.
No.
With the program, it was just about the money.
But we should clarify, that was, even the first draft of the IGA was not initiated by the school district,
Right.
right?
And Chief Weitzel presented the radios.
Okay.
Thank you, Wes, for
Yeah, thank you.
negotiations. It's awkward spot to try to get multiple bodies.
We've come a long way. It's only been, I've only been here less than a year, so I think that's a good place to be.
Finance Advisory Council is scheduled to meet on March 2nd to review financial projections and discuss any impacts of staffing. Personnel Advisory Council, no update. I communicated with them today on a brief update. That'll be shared in closed session. Policy Advisory Council, I did receive a question about, it is on our radar. I do have that policy pulled. The Policy Council usually meets on a quarterly basis. So I have 2:220 pulled so that we can discuss our voting procedures. I also got a question about tonight with the consent agenda. So traditionally, a consent agenda is on our business meeting. And so we talked about this a little bit last meeting, but traditionally hopefully the way we can set majority of things up would be if you see them at the committee of the whole, we, address them, discuss questions, and then at the business meeting, they'll be on a consent agenda. So when we have a committee of the whole, if there's something we need to vote on, Mary Ann calls it a committee of the whole and a special meeting of the board. So we haven't historically put a consent on both agendas. If there's a lot of items, we eventually could do that, but I think we still need to discuss this a little bit more in the policy, but I would imagine that this would get addressed in the next month or so.
Thank you.
And then purchase, lease, or land advisory council, there's another meeting later this week with the zoo to review another drawing that they requested. And that's all I have from the superintendent's report.
Right.